Welcome back to BookedMM with Mrs. Mullen. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the book, The Seventh Most Important Thing by Shelly Pearsall. Now, Shelly Pearsall has written several books. One that you might be familiar with is Trouble Don't Last. But she also wrote Jump into the Sky, Crooked River, All of the Above, and All Shook Up. Now, I haven't read all of those, but I'm just letting you know. That's what she's read. Now, this book is historical fiction. This takes place in the 1960s when the civil rights movement was just ramping up. It's right after the president is shot. In fact, the president gets shot in November, and this story is taking place over November through March of that same year. So that's what we're looking at with this book. Now, before I go much further, spoiler alert, in my enthusiasm to tell you about this book, I may tell you something you don't want to know. So if you're worried about that, go ahead and click away. Okay, so in this book, which takes place in Washington, D.C., our main character, Arthur Owens, is dealing with the fact that his father has passed away. Now, his father was drunk, driving a motorcycle, and ran into a tree. His mother, kind of in her grief and dealing in her grief, gets rid of everything belonging to the father. She just takes everything and throws it on the curb and says, I want a new start. Well, Arthur has a hard time with that because even though he realizes that his dad made decisions that were not good, he still very much respects and loves his father. And so it makes him very angry that his mom put everything on the curb. Well, what really starts the conflict of this story is when the junk guy is walking down the street and goes through their garbage can. Now, he does this every day, always has, always goes through everybody's junk. But he picks up Arthur's father's hat. It's a Harley Davidson hat, and he takes it and he puts it on his head. Well, that makes Arthur so angry because that belonged to his dad. Now, remember, his mom threw it away. Junkman's not stealing it, but to Arthur, it was just that last moment. And so he picks up a brick and throws it at the old guy. Luckily, he doesn't kill him. He just breaks his arm. But unluckily, it was witnessed, and Arthur is arrested for assault. Now, what makes it stand out so much in the court is that Arthur is white and the junk man is black. So the judge decides to make an example of Arthur. And he's going to throw the book at him, throw him in juvenile jail for a long, long time. But the junk man intervenes and says no. What he wants instead is he wants Arthur to work for him, to do community service for 120 hours instead of going to jail. So the bulk of this story is Arthur working for the junk man, whom he comes to find out actually has a name, oddly enough, James Hampton, and the treasure that James is making out of all that junk. It's actually based on a real James Hampton and a real treasure that he made out of junk. So it's got that little twist to it, which is kind of nice. I will tell you, this is another one of our Lone Star books, so it's one of those that you need to consider. It's very well written. I like science fiction, love science fiction, historical fiction, realistic fiction. I read them, but I don't like them as much. But this did keep me interested as I was reading the story, and I did want to find out what James was doing with all that junk. So it is a book that I would recommend that you pick up and read and see what you think. Thank you for tuning in to BookedMM with Mrs. Mullen. This is your daily reminder. Keep reading.